Chapter 21 The Wandering Dragon Returns to the Sea. If the sea does not welcome me, I will come back. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Is that him? Inside Susanu's skeletal form, Chen Yiban's scarlet eternal Mangekyo Sharingan eyes locked onto the figure who just blasted him back. Seeing that familiar yet unfamiliar face, Chen Yiban was momentarily surprised, but his expression quickly hardened into a cold glare. Jiraiya, Tsunade stared, shocked, at the figure before her. Toad Sage is here. The man struck a classic pose. He'd arrived just in time. It was Jiraiya, one of the legendary Sannin. After retrieving Tsunade and her return to Konoha as the fifth Hokage, he'd stayed in the village, or maybe he'd heard something and rushed back. Chen Yiban thought, doesn't matter. One Jiraiya can't change a thing. His eternal Mangekyo Sharingan coldly bore into Jiraiya, who just launched a big ball Rasengan. All that blazed in Chen Yiban's scarlet eyes was murderous intent. Jiraiya-sama. Kakashi, also surprised by Jiraiya's sudden appearance, knew that the sage lived up to his name. His arrival would relieve some of the pressure on them. It is Jiraiya-sama. Seeing Jiraiya, many Konoha ninja brightened, even Konoha's jonin, like Hinata Hizashi, Nara Shikaku, Yuhi Kurenai, and Mitarashi Anko, breathed a sigh of relief. Tsunade, hang in there. Jiraiya glanced back at Tsunade. Yeah, I know. Tsunade smirked, straightening up and stepping forward to stand beside Jiraiya. The damage Chen Yiban had inflicted was already being repaired by the strength of 100 seal. Be careful, Jiraiya. The enemy we're facing is likely the legendary ninja Uchiha Madara, Tsunade warned, looking up at Jiraiya. Unbelievable, but his chakra is overwhelming. I have to believe it. Jiraiya smiled grimly, simultaneously. That's Guy. Jiraiya saw Might Guy's broken form at the bottom of the chasm behind Chen Yiban. He was stunned. Guy, he opened all 8 gates, but he still couldn't take down that bastard. Tsunade clenched her fists in anger. What? Guy used the 8 gates released. Jiraiya was floored. And he still couldn't kill him. Jiraiya stared at Chen Yiban in disbelief. How can anyone survive the gate of death? This legendary Uchiha Madara is. Jiraiya was clearly shaken. Pervy Sage, Uzumaki Naruto, pinned down by Chen Yiban's Susanoo clones, saw Jiraiya and yelled. Get your butt in gear and take down that creep. Avenge Brow-sensei and Asuma-sensei. Naruto continued shouting. Naruto. Jiraiya paused, glancing at Tsunade. Asuma, too. Yeah. Tsunade nodded. The third. Jiraiya's face darkened. Orochimaru had killed the third Hokage not long ago, and now his students as well. The legendary Uchiha Madara. I'm really curious to see what he's got. Finally, anger surged through Jiraiya as he stared at Chen Yiban inside the blue Susanoo. At that moment, swish 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 swish, numerous root ninja emerged, and swish, an aged figure, moving faster than the other Konoha ninja, slipped past Chen Yiban's shadow clones and landed beside Tsunade and Jiraiya. It was Danzo Shimura. That old schemer was actually showing himself. Seeing Tsunade's poor performance, was he coming to the battlefield as Konoha's last hope? Ridiculous. Was the old coot still thinking about becoming the unofficial Hokage? Danzo. Both Tsunade and Jiraiya were surprised by Shimura Danzo's appearance. With an enemy invading Konoha, how could I stand idly by? Shimura Danzo's words were righteous and inspiring, spoken for all the Konoha ninja to hear. Tsunade and Jiraiya couldn't help but roll their eyes, but at this point, any help was welcome. The enemy before them was no ordinary foe. That brat from the Shimura clan? Chen Yiban said, arms crossed inside Susanoo. Remember when Hashirama and I fought together? You were still in diapers back then, weren't you? And now you dare to talk back to me. Chen Yiban's scarlet eternal Mangekyo Sharingan eyes locked on Danzo. Humph, I don't know how you're still alive and looking so young. But your time is over. I, Danzo Shimura, am not the boy I used to be, Danzo retorted, defiant. Is that so? A cruel smile spread across Chen Yiban's face. In the next moment, Chen Yiban made eye contact with his dozen shadow clones. The clones, who had been blocking the Konoha ninja, immediately retreated to the second layer of Susanoo, then, swish 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 swish, they landed beside Chen Yiban. Leave Konoha, or, die. Chen Yiban's real body, his scarlet eyes blazing, spoke coldly. This was his last act of mercy. That's not going to happen. Tsunade stood firm. Jiraiya glanced at Tsunade, then smiled. I'm a member of Konoha, no matter what. I'm ready to follow the 5th Hokage's orders. Jiraiya was going to stand by Tsunade. Root Ninja. Shimura Danzo called out, and the Root Ninja materialized behind him. It was clear where they stood, with Chen Yiban's shadow clones gone. Kakashi, Mitarashi Anko, Yuhi Kurenai, Hyuga Hizashi, and countless other Konoha Jonin and Anbu joined Tsunade and Jiraiya. Everyone, including Danzo Shimura, seemed united against a common enemy. In response. You know what? When people focus too much on one thing, they miss other things. A conspiratorial smile played on Chen Yiban's lips. Chapter 22. You are not qualified to dance in front of me. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Blind spot. What's that supposed to mean? Tsunade, Jiraiya, Shimura Danzo, and everyone else looked puzzled by Chen Yiban's words. Chen Yiban just smirked, offering no answer or explanation. Humph, stop with the theatrics. Against all of Konoha's ninja, even if you were the legendary Uchiha Madara, you wouldn't stand a chance. Shimura Danzo sounded self-satisfied. Madara's power was undeniable. Even 8 Gates guy, with all 8 gates fully opened, couldn't defeat him and was easily overpowered, but, Danzo slowly stroked his bandaged right hand and the bandaged eye beneath it. A surge of confidence suddenly welled up inside him. The eyes of the man before me are the ultimate Uchiha eyes, if I could just get them, Danzo entertained such thoughts. Is that so? Chen Yiban's smile remained cold. Jiraiya felt a knot of unease tighten in his stomach. This enemy is the legendary ninja, the former demon, Uchiha Madara. Jiraiya thought it was time to summon those two. Everyone, stay alert. He might. Tsunade started to warn the surrounding Konoha ninja, but, just as Chen Yiban had anticipated, everyone was so focused on him that they overlooked something else. Thud. Root Ninja standing behind Shimura Danzo suddenly struck. One sliced off Danzo's right arm, while the other beheaded him instantly. What? Tsunade, Jiraiya, Kakashi, Kurenai, and all the other Konoha ninja were stunned. Danzo's headless body, just moments ago full of bravado, collapsed. What are you doing? Tsunade roared, glaring at the Root Ninja holding Danzo's arm and head. Danzo-sama. The other Root members looked on in disbelief. Suddenly, one of the Root Ninja holding Danzo's arm and head erupted with powerful blue chakra. The blue, towering form of Susanoo third stage materialized instantly, enveloping them in its massive body. That's Susanoo. Tsunade, thrown back by the sudden surge of power, realized the truth. The bastard was playing us. Two figures in red armor and long hair emerged, mimicking Chen Yiban's appearance. They were shadow clones of Chen Yiban. Damn, when did he? Jiraiya gasped. Elder Danzo, actually. Kurenai couldn't believe that Konoha's elder, Danzo Shimura, had been killed so easily. Did you really think I'd come to Konoha without a plan, without any preparations? Chen Yiban sneered, arms crossed, as he watched his shadow clone succeed. He understood Konoha. He knew Danzo's secrets, that he possessed Uchiha Shirsue's Mangekyo Sharingan, that he had implanted 10 Three-Tomo Sharingan into his arm to activate Izanagi. Chen Yiban knew it all. Before entering Konoha, he had a plan. Danzo and 8 Gates guy were part of that plan. Chen Yiban had released those 2 shadow clones before the battle, hiding them among the crowd. They used the transformation technique to become Root Ninja, blending in behind Danzo, until the plan worked. Danzo Shimura, eliminated. Chen Yiban was playing the long game. Tsunade, Jiraiya, and Kakashi were too preoccupied with him to consider that their allies might be enemies. Danzo only realized the truth at the moment of his death, too late. How could the legendary ninja Uchiha Madara resort to such a cheap trick? Enko's eyes widened, expressing her disgust at Chen Yiban and his shadow clones. Makes me look like a villain, doesn't it? Chen Yiban said, a faint smile on his lips. A rat like you actually thinks you can dance in front of me? The Chen Yiban shadow clone holding Danzo's head spoke with contempt. Danzo would die with his eyes wide open. He didn't even have time to activate Izanagi or Kotoema Tsukumi. Danzo never expected that Chen Yiban was as cunning as him, if not more so. Retrieve Danzo's body. Jiraiya suddenly attacked, launching a Rasengan at Chen Yiban's Susanoo third stage. Bang! That even Susanoo's first stage was impervious to a regular Rasengan, let alone the third stage. It was just noise. Susanoo third stage knocked Jiraiya back with a single punch, then formed a massive 8 trigrams blast shot and hurled it at him. Whoosh, star. The 8 trigrams blast was incredibly fast and powerful, even Jiraiya was shocked. Bang, bang, star. He barely dodged. But the 8 trigrams blast grazed his arm as he turned away, blood gushed out. Jiraiya, are you alright? Tsunade rushed to his side, concern etched on her face. She quickly used the healing resuscitation regeneration technique to treat his arm. Fortunately, Tsunade had recently overcome her fear of blood. Otherwise, she would have been too shaken to treat Jiraiya. It's just a scratch. Jiraiya looked at Tsunade and forced a smile. Earth style. Fire style. Lightning style. Multi-size technique. Gentle fist. Kakashi, Enko, Kurenai, and other Konoha jounin, along with many ANBU ninja, bombarded the nearest Susanoo third stage with ninjutsu. Ha! Chen Yiban and his shadow clones inside the Susanoo ignored them. Thump, thump, star. The shadow clones controlled the towering Susanoo and walked towards Chen Yiban's body. All sorts of ninjutsu slammed into Susanoo, but to no avail. Annoyed, the shadow clone merely thought, and Susanoo tossed out the 8 trigrams blast, slicing through the area with chakra-enhanced power. The Konoha ninja suffered heavy casualties again. Chapter 23 Mangekyo Sharingan, Other Gods. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Seeing how powerful Chen Yiban's shadow clones were, mowing down Konoha ninjas left and right, Jiraiya yelled. Ninja art, Yellow Spring Swamp. Suddenly, whoosh, the third realm Susanoo, surrounding 2 of Chen Yiban's clones, started sinking into the ground right where it stood, heading toward the main body. The 2 clones looked down, realizing the ground had turned into a literal swamp, sucking the Susanoo down like quicksand, threatening to swallow it whole. Jiraiya had originally planned to use this move against Orochimaru's summoning creature, the Manda Serpent. But hey, it worked wonders on the Susanoo too. Everyone, now's our chance. Seeing the Susanoo bogged down, Tsunade immediately waved her hand, shouting to the surrounding Konoha ninjas. Instantly, a barrage of ninjutsu, wind style, fire style, water style, rained down on the Susanoo trapped in the Yellow Spring Swamp. Bang, bang, bang. The Susanoo wasn't shattered, but it was definitely getting pummeled, losing its balance and toppling over. The Yellow Spring Swamp quickly engulfed the entire third realm Susanoo. This thing is huge. Jiraiya kept pouring chakra into the technique, intensifying the swamp's power, like he was going to swallow the whole thing. Go to hell. Finally, Tsunade leaped high into the air and came crashing down, delivering a devastating punch to the Susanoo, slamming it completely into the Yellow Spring Swamp. She jumped back just in the nick of time. Grandma Tsunade, yeah. Naruto, watching from the sidelines, pumped his fist in excitement. Tsunade flashed a confident smile. Around them, the Konoha ninjas were grinning, too. Finally. It wasn't easy, but they finally got the upper hand. Tsunade, the battle's not over yet, Jiraiya cautioned, breaking the celebratory mood. Everyone's faces fell. They turned to look across the massive ravine in the distance, and there he was, Chen Yiban, standing there, alive and well. All they'd managed to take down was just one measly shadow clone, and now, a dozen more clones were materializing around Chen Yiban. This is hopeless, some ninjas couldn't help but laugh in despair. They couldn't win. It was impossible. This Uchiha Madara was on another level. They were outmatched, completely powerless. Did you guys enjoy that? Chen Yiban, inside his second realm Susanoo, crossed his arms, a mocking smirk on his face as he watched the hundreds of Konoha ninjas, seeing them celebrate after defeating one of his clones, like they'd actually accomplished something. It was almost comical. You smug jerk! Naruto yelled, his voice laced with anger. Ha! Chen Yiban scoffed, his disdain palpable, then, out of nowhere, he said, how long are you two going to keep playing possum? The Konoha ninjas were confused, could it be, Jiraiya, Tsunade, Kakashi, and Shikaku all started to suspect something, but before they could react, boom, the yellow spring swamp, which Jiraiya had just reinforced to seal the Susanoo, exploded, yellow smoke filled the air, clangdong, clangdong, .2 massive, blue figures, each dozens of feet tall, clawed their way out of the swamp. Everyone stared in shock and disbelief, they'd only sealed one. How were there two now? Oh, right, there were two shadow clones inside the Susanoo, but seriously? This was getting ridiculous. Swish, 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 as they emerged from the yellow spring swamp, the two Susanoos controlled by the shadow clones seemed hellbent on revenge. They began massacring the Konoha ninjas from every direction. Magatama projectiles and giant chakra swords rained down relentlessly. Ugh! Ack! Countless Konoha ninjas were falling left and right. Stop! Jiraiya shouted, furiously forming hand seals. Fire style, fire dragon flame bullet, whoosh, whoosh, whoosh asterisk. 3 enormous fire dragons roared to life, attacking the two Susanoos from the front, left, and right. Fire style, majestic destroyer flame. X2. The two Chen Yiban clones inside the Susanoo's calmly formed hand seals and unleashed torrents of flames from their mouths, like concentrated explosions. They instantly shattered Jiraiya's fire dragons, then. The flames engulfed countless Konoha ninjas, even turning Jiraiya's own fire dragon attack against his own people. Damn it! Water style! Jiraiya yelled, shocked and enraged. He quickly unleashed a powerful water-style jutsu to counter the devastating majestic destroyer flame. Any Konoha ninjas who could use water-style joined in, desperately trying to withstand the intense heat of the flames. The clash created massive amounts of steam, obscuring everyone's vision. They couldn't even see the enormous Susanoos anymore. Return to heaven. A member of the Hyuga clan unleashed their secret technique, dispelling the steam and clearing the battlefield. Opening the heavens, the powerful Hyuga technique, had been reduced to this, simply clearing the field of vision. Against the legendary ninja Uchiha Madara, they couldn't afford to hold back anything, not even their sight. Meanwhile, bang dong, the two Chen Yiban clones leaped back to their main body. Main body, we've got the goods. The Susanoos vanished, and the two clones handed over what they'd retrieved to the real Chen Yiban, Danzo Shimura's entire right arm and his head. Too slow, Chen Yiban said dismissively. Without hesitation, he took Danzo's right arm, revealing the 10 Sharingan eyes, each with 3 tomo. Whoosh! He immediately stored the arm within the achievement sign-in system's internal space. Then. This is Uchiha Shursui's Mangekyo Sharingan, Kodo Emetsukami. Tearing off the bandages covering Danzo's right eye socket, Chen Yiban, with his eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, recognized the Mangekyo Sharingan. It was indeed Shursui's eye, which Danzo had stolen in the original timeline. The power is definitely unique. Chapter 24, The Art of Channeling. Slug. Bunta. You are listening at novelfull.audio. That's Elder Danzo's head and arms, but what? Why does he have Sharingan from the Uchiha clan? That's Shursui's. It's Uchiha Shursui's Mangekyo Sharingan. That I saw it. At that moment, the Konoha ninjas were in shock, staring at Chen Yiban holding Danzo's head, and the arm covered in scarlet eyes. They were stunned. One of the Hyuga, with his Byakugan, spotted the Mangekyo Sharingan in Danzo's right eye. It was the eye known as Shursui the Teleporter. How could a Konoha elder have Uchiha's Sharingan? Even Shursui's Mangekyo. It really is Uchiha Shursui's Mangekyo Sharingan. Hinata Hinashi confirmed it, seeing the eye on Danzo's head held by Chen Yiban, Uchiha Shursui's Mangekyo Sharingan. That bastard Danzo! Tsunade and Jiraiya instantly understood, they cursed under their breath, nearby. How could this be? How could our Uchiha eyes? Uchiha Sasuke stared at Danzo's head and the arm full of Sharingan, the arm that had mysteriously disappeared. He was shocked and disbelieving, then, rage. There were so many Sharingan on Danzo's arm, it was obvious where they came from, the Uchiha massacre. Bastard! Sasuke clenched his fists about that. Shocked, Chen Yiban removed Uchiha Shursui's Mangekyo Sharingan, throwing Danzo's head aside, looking at the stunned Konoha ninjas, especially Sasuke, then. Don't be shocked. Don't be surprised. Konoha has been in debt to the Uchiha since the beginning. Now it's gone from debt to persecution. Chen Yiban spoke coldly, after storing that Tian Shen into the system. Stop with the nonsense and lies. Tsunade snapped back. Chen Yiban didn't look at her with his eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, but instead looked at Sasuke. You're one of the last Uchiha. What do you say? Uchiha kid, wanna come with me? Chen Yiban smiled slightly, his cold eternal Mangekyo Sharingan fixed on Sasuke. Izuna. Seeing Sasuke's face, so similar to someone in his memories, Chen Yiban's heart stirred. Sasuke would never join someone like you. Naruto shouted angrily. Is that so? Chen Yiban's eternal Mangekyo eyes stayed on Sasuke. Sasuke hesitated, he was tempted by Chen Yiban's words. Which made sense. Sasuke craved power. And Chen Yiban had shown unstoppable power, and everyone saw Chen Yiban as Madara. Sasuke did too, there was a sense of kinship with someone from the same clan. Compared to Danzo, a Konoha elder who stole the Sharingan from the massacred Uchiha, Sasuke had planned to leave Konoha and find Orochimaru. Now, after Chen Yiban's offer, how could he not be swayed? Ha! Chen Yiban saw his hesitation and smiled, then, whoosh 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 star, all his shadow clones vanished instantly, their power returning to Chen Yiban. One last time. Leave Konoha, or choose death. Standing in Susanu's second form, Chen Yiban's eternal Mangekyo Sharingan eyes were cold. Madara, what do you want? Jiraiya yelled. Jiraiya, talking won't work with this guy. Let's fight. Tsunade said, at the same time. Ninja art, summoning jutsu, poof star, Tsunade bit her thumb and slammed it on the ground, a huge cloud of white smoke appearing. Everyone saw Tsunade standing on top of a gigantic slug, nearly 100 meters long. It's Tsunade-sama's summoning beast, Slug, Kakashi exclaimed. Like before. Naruto remembered when Tsunade and Jiraiya fought Orochimaru, this was the second time Naruto had seen Slug. Tsunade. Jiraiya smiled, seeing Tsunade with her slugs, then. Ninja art, summoning jutsu. Jiraiya bit his thumb and pressed it to the ground. Poof star, Bunta, the giant toad, appeared. Hey! So big. As expected of the legendary Sannin. So strong. Great. We have hope. The Konoha ninjas grasped for any sign of survival, desperately looking for hope. This is nostalgic, Jiraiya said to Tsunade, on top of the giant slug, but one of the three Sannin was still missing. Jiraiya, why did you call me again? Gamabunta glanced at Jiraiya, standing on him, a little annoyed, he almost threw him off. Tsunade-sama, we meet again, Slug said gently. Ha! You even called slugs. And this is Konoha, right? Jiraiya, what kind of enemy are we facing? Gamabunta went from annoyed to surprised, he glanced around, what the hell? When was this new ditch, thousands of meters long and almost 100 meters wide, built? Is this really Konoha? Bunta was confused about that. Gamabunta, Slug, look at the guy over there. Do you recognize him? Jiraiya said seriously, standing on Gamabunta's head. Huh. Times 2. The summoning beasts were stunned, then, they looked across the field. He looks familiar, like I've seen him before, Gamabunta mumbled. He feels strong. Slug said. Wait, is that? Suddenly, Gamabunta remembered something. Holy crap. Chapter 25 Uchiha Madara's Kikara Gods Kikakara. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I saw Gamabunta finally look like he'd figured something out, then, the cigarette holder dangling from his mouth, which usually gave him a cool vibe, clattered to the ground. Gamabunta was visibly shaken and stared at Chen Yiban with total disbelief. No way, he shouldn't be. Even the huge Gamabunta was stunned. Huh. You recognize the guy? Slug was still catching up, until. It's Uchiha Madara. He's the legendary ninja, Uchiha Madara. Someone in the crowd couldn't hold it in any longer and shouted. What? The Slug, aka Slug, started trembling. It really is Uchiha. Gamabunta was completely floored. Jiraiya, what's going on? Is that really Uchiha Madara? Gamabunta wasn't nearly as cocky as when he first showed up to face Jiraiya, he even seemed worried. He has to be the legend. As for why he's still alive, I'm just as clueless as you are. Jiraiya shook his head, then he gave a helpless smile. This is a major headache. Headache? Jiraiya, if that's really Uchiha Madara, it's a lot more than a headache. To be honest, Gamabunta was ready to bail. Sure, Mount Myaboku is close to Jiraiya and Konoha, and he, Gamabunta, is Jiraiya's summon, but fighting Uchiha Madara? Seriously? Do you know how crazy the fight between Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara was? No way. Tsunade, is that guy really? Slug asked Tsunade above her head in a soft, almost scared voice. He's alive. Konoha ninjas, we have to stop him. Tsunade clenched her fists and glared at Chen Yiban. Gulp. Slug glanced at Chen Yiban again and swallowed hard. Oh, okay, Tsunade. The next moment, she split into a bunch of smaller slugs, then, she started crawling toward the injured Konoha ninjas in all directions. Konoha's ninjas had taken a beating facing Chen Yiban, dead, seriously injured, slightly injured, the whole shebang. Now, Slug's abilities were coming in handy. However, after splitting into so many smaller versions, the main Slug was now less than 30 meters tall. Seeing this. Still in denial. You just won't accept reality. Chen Yiban, in his red armor and with his long hair flowing, crossed his arms and looked at Jiraiya, Tsunade, and their summons with his crimson eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. Those eyes, they're exactly as the legend said. Gamabunta saw the pattern of the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan in Chen Yiban's eyes, and any hope he had vanished. He looked up at Jiraiya above him. Jiraiya, what are you waiting for? Summon the old man and old woman, and get into sage mode. If that's really Madara, Gamabunta didn't think they stood a chance. They needed to summon the two great toad sages from Mount Myaboku, his superiors, and have Jiraiya go into sage mode. Maybe then they'd have a shot. Hey! Chief Toad! Uzumaki Naruto, standing off to the side, spotted Gamabunta and waved, shouting a greeting. Shut up, kid! Gamabunta snapped at Naruto. He was in no mood. At the same time. Gamabunta, I know. I summoned you to buy time, so I could summon the two Toad Immortals. Jiraiya glanced at the massive Gamabunta beneath him. Jiraiya, you bastard. You think I'm that tough? Gamabunta gritted his teeth. Haha. Jiraiya was clearly embarrassed. Quit stalling. If that's really Uchiha Madara, how long do you think I can hold him off? Gamabunta yelled. Slug, let's buy some time for Jiraiya. Tsunade glanced at the 30-meter-sized slug beneath her. Okay, Tsunade. Slug nodded. These two summons, Slug and Gamabunta, were usually fearless giants, but, right now, they were staring at Chen Yiban with serious apprehension. Scared? Probably. Facing the legendary Uchiha Madara, who in the ninja world wouldn't be scared? Except maybe Senju Hashirama, if he was even still around. Time to cut our losses. This charade is over. Chen Yiban said coldly, interrupting Jiraiya and Gamabunta's discussion. Then, he slowly lowered his arms. Now, I'll show you, the power of Uchiha Madara, the power of a god. The true Susanoo, complete body, that with his blood-red eternal Mangekyo Sharingan wide open. Chen Yiban's expression was cold. The next second, whoosh star, terrifying pupil power combined with unmatched chakra erupted from Chen Yiban's body in a frenzy of blue energy, swish star. Done. Instantly, a Susanoo complete body towering over 230 meters stood between heaven and earth, appearing before the eyes of everyone in Konoha. The Susanoo was so huge, it could be seen from the edge of Konoha village. The power of the two eternal Mangekyo Sharingan combined to create a Susanoo that was directly over 230 meters tall. Nearly 100 meters taller than when the eternal Mangekyo was first activated. This. Countless Konoha ninjas, including Tsunade, Jiraiya, Kakashi, Kurenai, Enko, Shikaku, Hayashi, and more, gaped in shock. So big. Slug stammered. Jiraiya, I oughta kick your ass. Gamabunta dropped his pipe again. Chapter 26 Just One Sword. You are listening at novelfull.audio. What a jerk, why such a show, that I watched Gamabunta, this giant toad, 50 meters tall, staring up, jaw dropped, at the complete body Susanoo, towering 230 meters in front of him. Even though he's smaller than a slug, Gamabunta always figured he was pretty damn big for a summon, but now, staring at the complete body Susanoo, Gamabunta was thinking, guess I'm the little guy now. Meanwhile. No way. Tsunade was just as blown away. She couldn't believe Chen Yiban had this kind of terrifying power. The eternal Mangekyo Sharingan's 140-meter Susanoo was impressive enough, but this? Over 230 meters. Totally insane. Before, when that Susanoo was in its full form, she felt like Slug and Gamabunta together might stand a chance. Jiraiya could definitely do something in Sage mode again, but now, holy crap, it looks like he could squash all of us and our summons with one kick. That's messed up. The only one who could have stopped me was Hashirama. Too bad for you, he's gone. Chen Yiban's voice boomed from the diamond crystal on the supersized Susanoo's head. While he was talking, the Susanoo's massive hand gripped the hilt of the Susanoo sword at its waist. Then, boom, he slashed out with a sword like he was drawing one for the first time. The blue-white sword light flashed like a terrifying lightning strike, headed straight for the Konoha ninjas on the other side. No! Get out of the way! Tsunade and Jiraiya yelled, horror etched on their faces, but there wasn't time for more. Then they saw, clang. Ugh! Screams erupted, but many more were instantly vaporized by the sword's light. They didn't even get a chance to scream. Ugh! Jiraiya spat out a mouthful of blood as he was thrown back. At the same time, a searing pain shot through the right side of his body. He glanced down, and saw that his entire right hand had been sliced off and obliterated. At the last second, Jiraiya had shoved Tsunade out of the way with his right hand. Though Jiraiya narrowly dodged the worst of the attack, his whole right hand was gone. Bang! Gamabunta, who barely escaped the sword's path by leaping away, was still caught by the edge of the blast and sent flying, demolishing houses throughout Konoha. Ugh! Gamabunta coughed up blood, badly injured. He could no longer hold his knife. Damn it, you almost killed me, Gamabunta weakly croaked, coughing up blood. Over on the other side, Tsunade, pushed away by Jiraiya, and thanks to her strength of 100 seal, managed to get to her feet from the ruins with no serious injuries. Then, she stared, wide-eyed and dazed, at what was left of Konoha, a chasm, about 70 meters wide, several kilometers long, and seemingly bottomless, cut right through Konoha. It had literally split the entire village in two. Everywhere, the severed limbs of Konoha ninjas littered both sides of the abyss, constantly falling into the darkness. This sight made Tsunade's eyes burn with red, bloodshot fury. Tsunade-sama. Slug, her summon, approached Tsunade. Because it can split, the trauma to the slug was minimal, however, it was not completely harmless. At least many of its own sub-bodies that split off at the beginning were evaporated into nothingness under the shocking sword just now, and at this moment, arriving next to Tsunadeheim, Slug suddenly saw the bottomless abyss in front of him. There are also countless stumps and broken arms. This. Slug was horrified and speechless. Shikamaru. Ino and Choji stared at their friend's lifeless body on the ground, tears streaming down their faces. I'm so sorry. The slug's body cannot save the dead. Soon, Narashikaku, who was still alive, clutched his injured abdomen and slowly approached, then knelt and gazed at his dead son in silence. On the other side, Niji, Tenten and Rock Lee stared in disbelief at Hyuga Niji on the ground. It seemed that just now, in order to help Rock Lee and Tenten escape the worst, Hyuga Niji had unleashed all his strength at the critical moment to use his rotation defense. Lee and Tenten survived, but Niji himself had died from his injuries. The slug's split body on the side is equally powerless. However, there was one place where the damage was minimal, that is, click. Hatake Kakashi deactivated his massive earth release barrier, then, along with his 3 students, Naruto Uzumaki, Sasuke Uchiha, and Sakura Haruno, they stared in shock at the scene around them, especially the abyss that bisected Konoha, the bottomless chasm. Was such power really blocked by my earth release barrier? Kakashi noticed the damage on their side was minimal. Could it be Sasuke? Kakashi glanced at Sasuke Uchiha next to him in surprise, remembering what Chen Yiban had said to Sasuke earlier. He couldn't help but wonder. The only explanation was that he was sparing fellow members of the Uchiha clan. This kind of power. Sasuke stared at the devastation that cut through Konoha. He genuinely couldn't believe it. Could humans really possess this kind of power? Could a legendary ninja, the once strongest leader of his clan, really be this shockingly powerful? He simply couldn't believe what he was seeing. How could the village become like this? Sakura stared blankly at the divided Konoha. Next to her, Naruto Uzumaki ran forward, barely holding himself together. Quickly. Shikamaru. Naruto saw Shikamaru's body. Besides, Hinata Niji. Naruto-kun. Not far away, Hinata Hyuga, with her father Hisashi Hyuga, walked towards them. Then, she saw Niji lying on the ground covered in blood, and she covered her mouth in shock. Ero Sennin. Turning his head, Naruto, already consumed by rage, spotted Jiraiya, missing his right arm, and confusion, shock. Ero Sennin. Naruto immediately rushed over to help Jiraiya. Ero Sennin, you. Having just witnessed the deaths of Shikamaru and Niji, Naruto was terrified that Ero Sennin would die too. Mainly, the bloody scene on the right side of Jiraiya's body was so disturbing. Don't worry, I'm Jiraiya the Toad Sage. I'm not going down that easy. Jiraiya forced a smile and reached out to ruffle Naruto's hair. Tears were already streaming down Naruto's face. Afterwards, everyone, including Kakashi, Mitarashi Anko, Yuhi Kurenai, Hinata Hisashi, Nara Shikaku, and the others who had survived, huddled together again, and at that moment, clang thump, the complete body Susanoo, taking heavy, deliberate steps, approached the last surviving ninjas of Konoha. Bastard! Naruto's eyes began to glow red. Chapter 27 Uzumaki Naruto loses control. 7 Tales. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Clang Dong. Clang Dong, Susanoo, a towering figure of immense power, relentlessly approached the remaining ninja of Konoha, his footsteps echoing. His sheer size radiated an overwhelming aura. The pressure was so intense that some ninja were forced to retreat, some even collapsing to the ground. We can't win this. Despair began to creep in as they gazed at the perfect Susanoo, a titan over 750 feet tall, advancing with each step. Countless ninja felt a chilling sense of hopelessness. This isn't even a fair fight. Kurenai Yuhi, tears welling in her beautiful eyes, could only kneel, defeated. Damn it! Tsunade, surveying the devastation, Konoha cleaved in two by a single, terrible blade, gritted her teeth, a picture of helpless despair. Kakashi, silent, felt the same crushing powerlessness in his heart. The legendary ninja, Madara Uchiha, was simply too powerful. They stood no chance. Finally, Susanoo stood before the remaining ninja of Konoha. Its terrifying presence was absolute, stripping away any remaining will to resist. Seeing this, Chen Yiban, clad in red armor, his hands folded, spoke coldly from within the diamond-shaped crystals at the head of the super-giant Susanoo, finally, giving up the fight. But the instant the words left his lips, roar. A bestial roar tore through the ruined remains of Konoha. Oh! Looking down from his vantage point, a smile played on Chen Yiban's lips as he watched a figure lose control, for tales of the nine-tailed fox had erupted from Uzumaki Naruto's body. He had entered a beastly state. Kid, so you don't become Madara's puppet, I'll lend you a hand this time. The Nine-Tails Kurama spoke from within the rampaging Naruto. It's Naruto. Kakashi turned, recognizing the red, bestial figure. Naruto. Jiraiya, missing an arm, was closest to the four-tailed Naruto, but he was too weak to stop Naruto from losing control. Still, if Naruto saw Susanoo as an enemy, maybe losing control wouldn't be so bad for a little while. As that thought crossed Jiraiya's mind, whoosh, the four-tailed Naruto charged toward the supersized Susanoo. Interesting. Chen Yiban chuckled softly within the crystal on Susanoo's head. Roar. The four-tailed Naruto roared, his hands and feet pounding against the ground as he exploded forward, surprising everyone with his speed and strength. Bang. A giant claw, formed from the tailed beast's chakra, slashed at the giant calf of Susanoo. It barely made a sound. That tickles. Chen Yiban, eternal Mangekyo Sharingan activated, watched with scorn, his arms still crossed. Roar. The four-tailed Naruto seemed to grow even angrier. Another roar ripped through the sky, and a fifth tail appeared. Instantly, an even more terrifying wave of tailed beast chakra engulfed Naruto. He was consumed by pure rage. At the same time, Naruto's skin began to peel away. That's Naruto. Sasuke Uchiha, witnessing the powerful tailed beast chakra, looked on in shock. He couldn't believe Naruto possessed such terrifying power. Naruto. Sakura Haruno was equally surprised. It's the fifth tail, we can't let this go on. Naruto. Kakashi, concerned, felt utterly helpless. Naruto, ahem. Severely injured, Jiraiya coughed up blood as he spoke. Naruto. Tsunade's gaze was complex as she looked at the five-tailed Naruto. If all nine tails emerged, Naruto would be lost. But, facing the legendary ninja Madara Uchiha, an enemy of unimaginable power, maybe they needed to gamble everything on a desperate move? With that thought, Tsunade's expression as she watched Naruto was a mix of emotions. She glanced at the injured Jiraiya, missing an arm. Maybe Naruto's power was Konoha's last hope. Jiraiya, hang in there. Steeling herself, Tsunade moved to Jiraiya's side. She immediately began to use her medical ninjutsu to heal him. Seeing this, Tsunade, help me. Jiraiya looked at the woman he loved, pleading. Tsunade, already treating his wounds, looked confused as she saw his broken arm. Realization dawned, and she understood what he wanted. She wiped the blood from his severed limb. Seeing this, Jiraiya couldn't help but smile despite the pain, knowing she understood. Then, ninja art, summoning jutsu. Meanwhile, as the beast Naruto with five tails took form, his power continued to surge, layer upon layer. Soon, a sixth tail appeared. Roar. A terrifying roar echoed from Naruto, shaking Konoha to its foundations. It shocked everyone. Naruto. Sasuke and Sakura were stunned. 6 tails already. If this keeps up. Kakashi was worried about his student, but he couldn't do anything. At that moment, the six-tailed Naruto began to condense a tailed beast ball at Susanoo. Boom, the tailed beast ball slammed into the massive Susanoo, striking the giant blue calf. Chen Yiban's perfect Susanoo shifted back slightly, but that was all. Ha! Chen Yiban watched quietly, arms crossed. He was waiting for Naruto to unleash all 9 tails. Then he would be able to put a collar on the 9-tailed fox. Whoosh! A crystal necklace around Naruto's neck began to glow, trying to restrain him. It seemed to be trying to suppress Naruto's loss of control. But, snap! Like the scene during Pain's assault on Konoha, the 6-tailed Naruto grabbed the necklace, crushed it, and shattered it. Instantly, the power of the seal vanished. Roar! Behind Naruto, a 7th tail emerged. Chapter 28 9 Tails. Time to wear a collar. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 7 Tails. Kakashi stared, surprised, at Naruto, now transformed into the 7-tailed beast. As the 7 tails emerged, a coat of white bones began to form around the berserk Naruto, bolstering his defense. Roar! He roared and charged at the feet of the colossal complete body Susanoo. Bang, bang, bang. He furiously swung his claws, attacking the Susanoo at blinding speed, while simultaneously unleashing a barrage of tailed beast bombs, but they couldn't inflict any real damage on the giant Susanoo. Instead, click. As the 7-tailed Naruto clambered up Susanoo's massive form, Chen Yiban reacted instantly, Susanoo's hand clamping down on the rampaging Uzumaki. Roar! The 7-tailed Naruto roared at Chen Yiban from within Susanoo's grip. Oh, you're putting on quite a show. But I'm fresh out of patience. Chen Yiban said coldly, his eternal Mangekyo Sharingan blazing. Then. Kyuubi. Time to slap a collar on you. He weaved hand seals, preparing to unleash the power of the eternal Mangekyo on the 7 tails Naruto. His plan was to fully awaken the tailed beast's power within Naruto to capture the 9-tailed fox residing inside him. But then. Super Big Ball Rasengan. A figure suddenly leaped into action, striking Susanoo's massive wrist. Although it couldn't break Susanoo's grip, it was enough to force it to release the 7 tails Naruto, allowing him to escape. Ha! Chen Yiban's eyes narrowed, his gaze hardening. It was Jiraiya. But Jiraiya looked radically different, almost monstrous. He resembled a toad. And perched on his shoulders were 2 tiny figures. He's entered Sage mode. Chen Yiban frowned, irritated by the interruption. Just then, boom, boom, boom. 3 enormous figures, each wielding huge weapons, simultaneously attacked the legs of the Susanoo. Caught off guard, Chen Yiban didn't react in time and Susanoo stumbled slightly. Chen Yiban's eternal Mangekyo Sharingan peered down. 3 colossal toads were in view. It was Bunta, Hero, and Gamaken, the Toad brothers from the original saga. Bunta had just been summoned by Jiraiya. The other 2, along with the 2 little toads perched on Jiraiya's shoulders, were clearly members of the Toad clan from Mount Myaboku. Get out of my way. Chen Yiban said icily, then he launched a furious kick. Bang, bang, bang. Whoa. The 3 giant toads were sent flying, landing heavily on the ground in a heap. We hit him with everything we had, and all we got was a little step back. But his casual kick. The 3 brothers Bunta, Hero, and Gamaken, sprawled on the ground, gaped in disbelief at the complete body Susanoo towering 4 or 5 times over them. Sage Art, Frog Song. At that moment, the 2 toad sages on Jiraiya's shoulders unleashed the mystical art of Mount Myaboku. Croak, croak, croak. An illusionary sound began to bombard Chen Yiban atop the complete body Susanoo. However, Susanoo was simply too large, significantly reducing the power of the frog song. Besides, Chen Yiban, wielding the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan and possessing formidable mental power, was immune to the frog's croaking. Noisy. Chen Yiban yelled. He prepared to cleave Jiraiya in 2 with the Susanoo blade. But, boom! An exponentially larger tailed beast bomb suddenly slammed into Susanoo from the side. Chen Yiban was forced to change tactics, swinging to intercept the incoming tailed beast bomb. Clang! The tailed beast bomb was cleaved in 2, unleashing a tremendous explosion. A mushroom cloud billowed into the sky. Swish! Within the crystal on Susanoo's head, Chen Yiban was unharmed, manipulating Susanu's hand to swat away the smoke and dust. He spotted Naruto, now with 8 tails. "Kyuubi, did you think you could escape? Come here and submit to my power." Chen Yiban sneered. Despite being besieged by so many powerful opponents, Chen Yiban remained composed, almost nonchalant. "Still, some flies are a nuisance." As Chen Yiban spoke, he slowly formed hand seals. 5 shadow clones materialized around him. "Get rid of those flies. I'm going to put the collar on Kyuubi," Chen Yiban stated, glancing at the 5 clones. The clones nodded in response. A moment later, swish, 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 swish. The 5 shadow clones leaped from the top of the towering Susanoo, then, .3 squared off against Gamma Bunta, Gamma Hero, and Gammaken. One confronted Jiraiya in Sage mode. The last shadow clone calmly approached the assembled Konoha ninjas, including Tsunade, Kakashi, and the others. "Don't get in the way." ×5. The 5 shadow clone Chen Yiban spoke in unison, their tone chilling. "Bastard!" Jiraiya, Tsunade, Kakashi, Gamma Bunta, and Gamma Hero glared at the shadow clone Chen Yiban before them, cursing angrily, but feeling helpless. Meanwhile, "Alright, no one will bother you anymore. Time for the collar." The real Chen Yiban, within the head crystal of the complete body Susanoo, stared at the 8-tailed Naruto not far away. "Damn you!" Kurama roared from within the seal. Roar. Outside, the beast-transformed Naruto also roared furiously at Susanoo. Having just witnessed the Susanoo's sword cleave the massive-tailed beast bomb, Kurama's understanding of Susanoo's immense power reached a new height. Boom, 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 boom. The rampaging 8-tailed Naruto launched a series of tailed beast bombs at the complete body Susanoo. It was like a desperate barrage. But, the complete body Susanoo advanced, casually swatting away the small-tailed beast bombs. It was as easy as flicking away mosquitoes. Watching this, Naruto, Kakashi, Jiraiya, Tsunade, and the others were consumed with worry for Naruto. Naruto already had 8 tails manifesting, and if he lost control completely, the consequences would be irreversible. But just as Jiraiya, Tsunade, Kakashi, and the others were about to intervene. Swish, 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 swish. The 5 shadow clone Chen Yibans, each in a different position, simultaneously unleashed the chakra, Susanoo 3rd stage. In an instant, 5 towering blue figures stood before everyone. "I told you. Don't get in the way." ×5. Chapter 29. The 4th Hokage. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Damn it, Jiraiya, Tsunade, Kakashi, Gamma Bunta, Gamma Hero, Gammaken. Everyone glared at the Susanoo 3rd stage, Chen Yiban's shadow clone, standing before them. Unlike other Susanoo, Madara's Susanoo in its 3rd stage possessed a lower body, allowing it to stand upright, towering at over 30 meters. It was truly gigantic. A heavy sense of oppression washed over everyone, even though it wasn't the full-bodied version, which stood at over 230 meters. Still, it was more than enough to hold back Jiraiya, Tsunade, Gamma Bunta, Kakashi, and the others in Sage mode. "Alright, you two, let's hit him with that," Jiraiya, in Sage mode, announced, eyeing Chen Yiban's shadow clone and its 3rd stage Susanoo. Fukasaku and Shima, the 2-toed sages perched on Jiraiya's shoulders, seemed to know exactly what he meant. Quickly. Sage art, Gomen. Fukasaku channeled wind release, Shima fire release, and Jiraiya spat out oil. Boom. The combined energies exploded into an inferno, threatening to consume everything. In response, from star, Chen Yiban's shadow clone willed it, and Susanoo instantly hurled a powerful Yasaka Magatama. With a sharp hiss, the surging Gomen was split in 2, simultaneously. The 2-faced, 4-armed Susanoo didn't waste any time, its other 3 arms grasping at the air. 3 chakra swords materialized in its massive hands. Then, the 3 massive hands slashed. 3 beams of pure sword energy shot out. Gomen, completely dissipated, a final burst of sword light even broke through the remains of the attack, heading straight for Jiraiya, forcing him to scramble out of the way. With only 1 arm left, even in Sage mode, Jiraiya's strength was compromised. After dodging the Yasaka Magatama, Jiraiya glanced at the others. He saw Tsunade, Kakashi, and the others were also held back by two Susanoo's shadow clones of Chen Yiban's. Only two shadow clones of Chen Yiban were blocking Bunta and his toad brothers. Chen Yiban's shadow clones were enough to halt Bunta and his brothers in their tracks. Things weren't looking good. Naruto. Jiraiya cast a worried glance towards Naruto. He saw Chen Yiban's complete body Susanoo clutching the eight-tailed Naruto by the neck. At this point, Naruto was almost completely transformed into the tailed beast. Clang! Before Jiraiya could think further, the Chen Yiban shadow clone on his side directed Susanoo to leap and deliver a crushing kick. Jiraiya retreated again, and then. Sage Art, Frog Song. Fukasaku and Shima unleashed their frog cries at the Chen Yiban shadow clone in the Susanoo. The earlier attempt against Chen Yiban's main body had been ineffective due to Susanoo's immense size, but this Chen Yiban's shadow clone was only in the third level of Susanoo. The distance wasn't too high, and the distance was very close. It could have worked this time, only, boom boom boom, before the frogs could croak more than a few times, the Susanoo third stage in front of them fired a barrage of Yasaka Magatama. Jiraiya was once again overwhelmed, momentarily unable to retaliate. Others, too, were pounded by barrages of Yasaka Magatama and chakra swords from the Susanoo, forced to run for their lives. There was no way to break through the blockade of the 5 Chen Yiban shadow clones. It felt like they were being hunted down. Damn it, can't we even handle Uchiha Madara's shadow clones? Jiraiya roared in frustration, then, a massive Rasengan materialized in his remaining left hand. Super Big Ball Rasengan. Get off my feet. Tsunade charged forward, landing a punch. Let the three of us teach you what family means. Bunta, flanked by his brothers, joined the fray, clang clang clang, but the 5 Susanoo third stages easily deflected each attack with a single hand. They effortlessly blocked Jiraiya, Tsunade, and Bunta. Even, bang, ugh, knocking them aside with a single blow. Witnessing this. Ha! We can't even beat his shadow clones. Damn. Around them, countless Konoha ninja seemed to have truly lost hope. Maybe, we should just leave the village. Someone even suggested this. To consider abandoning the home they had known their whole lives showed how desperate Chen Yiban had made the Konoha ninja. They felt utterly helpless. The legendary ninja, Madara Uchiha, the demon of the ninja world, was just too powerful. Meanwhile, Chen Yiban's true body, his eternal Mangekyo Sharingan as red as blood, stared down at the eight-tailed Naruto, who was being strangled by his Susanoo in front of him. The out-of-control Naruto, his neck in a vice grip, was trying to form a tailed beast ball. Chen Yiban thought. One hand of Susanoo's body continued to strangle his neck, and the other hand gently crushed the tailed beast jade that had not yet condensed into shape. It's over, Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. Activated. Inside the dark, sealed space. Kid, that's it. Keep going. Tear it off. Break the seal. The Ninetails Kurama was trying to tempt the out-of-control Naruto to tear off the sealing paper and break the seal, but while Naruto could tear the paper, the seal itself wasn't so easy to break. And, just as Naruto, with red pupils, stepped forward and reached out to tear off the sealing paper, clutch, a hand grabbed Naruto's, and pulled him back. A surge of clarity washed over Naruto. You. Naruto looked up in surprise at the familiar figure in the Hokage cloak before him, bang, inside the sealed gate. Kurama slammed a massive paw against the gate in frustration. Always taking my sister away. Chapter 30 The Man Sitting on Top of Kyuubi's Head. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Roar! The 9 llamas roared and lunged forward when they saw the figure in the god robe, ready to rip him to shreds. You're... Naruto, just regaining consciousness, stared at the man in disbelief. The 4th Hokage? What are you doing here? That he couldn't process what he was seeing. Namake's Minato, wearing a god robe, with hair the same color as his own. Naruto, this isn't the place. First, I need to reinforce the Nine-Tails seal. We can talk later. Minato smiled gently at his son, who looked to be about 12 or 13, Naruto just stared back, stunned, bang. Always messing with my sister. Nearby, the 9 llamas slammed against the giant ceiling door again, snarling at Minato. Kyuubi. Minato looked at the 9-tailed fox, his expression complex. He thought of Kushina. Snapping back to reality, Minato prepared to use his remaining strength to reinforce the seal, boom boom. But just as he was about to act, a blue force blasted him away. It happened too fast. Young Daimai didn't have time to react. Besides, the current young Daimai wasn't even alive, it was just a chakra construct. Stunned, young Daimai righted herself and looked up. A pair of eternal Mangekyo Sharingan stared back. Crap. Young Daimai gasped. Zheng, thought it was happening. The eternal Mangekyo Sharingan blazed with power. Hakumenkai was the first. That rat Danzo Shimura was the second. You, Namikaze Minato, you're the third. Now, release the seal. Chen Yiban, wearing red armor, his long hair flowing to his waist, glared at the controlled Nagadaimai with his eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. Moto, R.A. Seeing Chen Yiban, the 9 llamas roared, slamming the sealed door. It instinctively recoiled. Young Daimai was already working on breaking the 9-tail seal. Damn Motora! The 9 llamas roared again. Kyuubi was almost in tears. Releasing the seal earlier would have been better. Now that the bastard Motora was here, if the seal was released now, the 9 llamas would definitely become his terrifying pet again. How could this be fixed? Meanwhile, Motora, seeing Chen Yiban, Naruto reacted instantly and threw an angry punch as young Daimai worked to undo the seal. Out of my way. Chen Yiban's pupils narrowed. Boom, instant suppression forced Naruto to his knees. He couldn't move. Damn it. Naruto gritted his teeth, frustrated. Roar, the 9 llamas roared and protested at Chen Yiban. Don't worry, Kyuubi. An evil smile crept across Chen Yiban's face as his scarlet eyes flicked to the 9 llamas inside the sealed gate. The seals were unraveling little by little. Joe Llama didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Swish swish swish. Suddenly, just as the seal was about to be fully unlocked, many chakra chains appeared, lashing out at Chen Yiban. Zheng. Chen Yiban unleashed the power of the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, shattering the chains. The eternal kaleidoscope's enhanced sight located the attacker. Swish. A huge blue skeletal hand appeared and grabbed the figure, crushing her tightly. Uzumaki Kushina. You're not even worth 4th place. Chen Yiban's eternal Mangekyo Sharingan eyes were cold as he looked at the woman trapped in the skeletal hand. Minato, Naruto. Kushina looked at her husband and son with tear-filled eyes, then, boom. With a thought, Chen Yiban extinguished Kushina's chakra construct. It wasn't alive anyway. If Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki were alive, Chen Yiban might have been interested in a fight, but this was just a chakra construct, so Chen Yiban had no interest. He crushed it. At the same time, click, the 9 llamas seal was completely released. Naruto felt like his heart had stopped. Outside. Ha. Jiraiya, Tsunade, Kakashi, Hinata, and everyone else, along with Bunta and his brothers, were exhausted as they faced 5 shadow clones of Chen Yiban. Hokage-sama, our chakra. Kakashi looked at Tsunade, wanting to tell her that everyone was running on empty. Damn it. Tsunade felt like she couldn't maintain the seal of 100 healings much longer. Little Jiraiya, are you alright? Fukasaku felt Jiraiya's aura weakening. Ha, I'm okay, Jiraiya said with a forced smile. This guy's a legend. He's too strong. Don't push yourself, Jiraiya. Shima warned him. Jiraiya, in sage mode, shook his head. I can't give up on the village. Fukasaku and Shima sighed, stopping their attempts to persuade him. They looked at Jiraiya worriedly, sensing his impending death. This is total BS. How can someone's shadow clone be this strong? Mitarashi Enko sat down, rolling around. Kakashi and Hinata felt the same way. Were those 5 really just shadow clones? They were ridiculously strong. Especially after fighting for so long. How could those clones maintain Susanoo third order? They were just shadow clones. How was that possible? It felt like cheating. Roar! That a chilling roar echoed in the distance, then, boom, something massive hit the ground, shaking everything. Everyone looked up, they stared, dumbfounded. Kyuubi had returned, and Chen Yiban, his eternal Mangekyo Sharingan blazing, sat atop the Ninetails as it crashed down, facing the Konoha ninjas. Everyone was speechless. We're screwed.